You ever get that feeling that there's something more to reality than what we see? Well, what if I told you the universe has a secret, a really spooky secret? And no, this isn't science fiction. It's the groundbreaking idea that won the 2022 Nobel Prize in Physics. Today, we're going to unravel a mystery that completely baffled even Albert Einstein, and it reveals a truth about our universe that is just way, way stranger than you could ever imagine.
So, at the heart of this whole thing are three scientists: Elaine Aspect, John Clauser, and Anton Zeilinger. Their work, stretched out over decades, finally solved the puzzle that the greatest scientific mind of the 20th century just couldn't crack. These are the guys who proved our universe is weirder than we ever thought possible.
And here's the kicker. The man they ultimately proved wrong? Albert Einstein himself. The father of relativity was really troubled by one particular part of quantum mechanics. He famously called it spooky action at a distance, and he was just convinced it couldn't be real. So what was it? What was this one idea that kept Einstein up at night? Let's dive in.
All right, so to really get why this was a Nobel Prize-winning idea, we've got to go back to that puzzle, the one that totally stumped Einstein. And it all boils down to this one really weird phenomenon at the very core of quantum physics.
It's got a big name, quantum entanglement. But here's the gist. Imagine you have two particles, say 2 photons of light, that are created together. They become linked, like cosmic twins, in a way that just breaks our everyday logic. This link is so deep that if you measure something about one particle, you instantly know the same thing about its twin, even if that twin is on the other side of the galaxy. And when I say instantly, I mean instantly. Faster than the speed of light, no delay. And that's what drove Einstein nuts.
Okay, this slide gets to the very heart of the whole debate. On the left, you've got the glove analogy. This is just common sense. I put a left glove and a right glove into 2 separate boxes and mail them to opposite ends of the earth. You open your box, you see a left glove. You know immediately that your friend has the right one. No magic there, right? The information, which glove was which, was baked in from the start. But quantum mechanics says, nope, that's not how it works. It's more like the coin analogy on the right. It says 2 entangled quantum coins don't have a side. They're neither heads nor tails until you look. The moment you measure one, bam, it becomes heads. And its twin, even if it's light years away, instantly becomes tails. Your act of looking literally created that reality for both of them at the same time.
So yeah, Einstein was 100% team glove. He believed in what's called local realism. Realism just means stuff is, well, real. That glove is a right-hand glove even if no one's looking at it. And local means no spooky, faster-than-light messages. To Einstein, it was just common sense. He thought there must be some hidden instructions, some hidden variables that decided everything from the start. We just hadn't found them yet. And for decades, that's all this was. You know, a debate for philosophers over coffee, a battle of analogies. I mean, how could you even test it? How do you actually ask the universe, hey, are you the common sense glove version, or are you the spooky coin version? But then, everything changed. And it's all thanks to this absolute genius, a physicist named John Bell. In the 1960s, he had this incredible breakthrough. He figured out how to take this philosophical argument and drag it into a real lab. He found a way to put the universe itself on the witness stand and ask it directly, are you common sense or are you spooky?
What you came up with is now famous as Bell's inequality. And you can think of it like a lie detector test for reality. It's brilliant. Bell basically did the math and said, okay, if Einstein is right, if we live in that common sense glove world, then there's a hard limit on how connected these particles can seem. A clear line in the sand. If you run the experiment, the results can never, ever go past this Bell limit. It's basically a speed limit for common sense.
So here's how the test works, broken down. First, you just assume Einstein's right. You assume we live in that sensible glove universe. Then, you calculate the absolute maximum connection you should ever possibly see between your particles. That number, that's your Bell limit. Step 3, you go into the lab and you actually do the experiment with real particles. And finally, you just compare what you got with the limit.
And this is the moment of truth. The stakes for our understanding of reality could not be higher. If the experimental results stay below that Bell limit, Einstein wins. The universe makes sense. But if the results break that limit, if they're more connected than common sense allows, then Einstein was wrong, and our universe is fundamentally, undeniably spooky.
So Bell gave us the recipe, but it was just a theory, right? Just math on a blackboard. Someone actually had to get their hands dirty, build the thing, and put the universe to the test. And that's where our first Nobel laureate, John Clauser, steps onto the stage.
So back in 1972, John Clauser is the first person to take up Bell's challenge. He builds his whole setup to finally run the test. And the results were an absolute bombshell. His data didn't just nudge past the Bell limit. It smashed right through it. The correlations he measured were stronger than Einstein's glove reality could ever allow. For the very first time, we had experimental proof. Reality is, in fact, spooky.
Now, Clauser's experiment was a huge deal, a massive breakthrough. But you know how science works. People immediately started poking holes in it, pointing to potential flaws or loopholes. They said things like, well, what if the detectors are secretly talking to each other? Or what if the experiment isn't fast enough? So, about a decade later, in comes our next hero, Alain Aspect, and his whole mission was to plug those loopholes. He designed this incredibly clever, much more sophisticated experiment. Get this, it was so fast it could change the measurement settings while the particles were already flying through the air. That meant there was literally no time for any kind of hidden signal to coordinate the result, not even one moving at the speed of light. He slammed the door shut on the biggest doubts, and the result? Exactly the same. Bell's inequality was violated. The case for a spooky universe was becoming undeniable.
Okay, so Clauser and Aspect have established this fundamental, totally bizarre truth about our universe. But so what? What can he actually do with it? Well, this is where our third laureate, Anton Zeilinger, comes in. He saw all this spookiness not as a weird puzzle, but as a powerful new resource.
You can really see the beautiful progression here. First, Clauser gets that groundbreaking proof in '72. Then Aspect comes along in '82 and makes it rock solid. And then, starting in the late '90s, Anton Zeilinger and his team began to actually harness the power of entanglement. They started doing things that sound like they're straight out of science fiction, like quantum teleportation. Yeah, you heard me right, transferring the quantum state of one particle to another across a distance. Zeilinger is the one who took this spooky phenomenon and turned it into the foundation for a whole new technological revolution.
So, after decades of debate, decades of experimentation, the verdict was finally in. The universe consistently and without any doubt violates Bell's inequality. That spooky action at a distance that Einstein just couldn't believe in is in fact a fundamental feature of our reality. Our universe is non-local. And that brings us right back to the beginning, to the Nobel Prize. The official citation perfectly sums up their collective achievement. They were awarded for experiments with entangled photons, establishing the violation of Bell inequalities, and pioneering quantum information science. It's a perfect summary of everything they accomplished.
Okay, so this is obviously a profound discovery about the very nature of reality. But let's bring it back down to Earth for a second. What does pioneering quantum information science actually mean for you and me? Why does this matter beyond a physics lab?
Well, it means we are right at the beginning of a brand new quantum age. By harnessing this spooky entanglement, scientists are now developing technologies that are going to completely change our world. We're talking about quantum computers that can solve problems that would take today's best supercomputers billions of years. We're talking about quantum cryptography, which allows for communication that is physically, fundamentally impossible to hack. We're talking about a future quantum internet that will connect the world in ways we can't even imagine. And all of this is only possible because Aspect, Clauser, and Zeilinger proved that the universe's spooky secret is real.
And that leaves us with one final fascinating thought to chew on. This work proved that our most basic common sense gut intuition about how the world works, that things can only affect what's right next to them, is just plain wrong. And it really makes you wonder, if reality is so deeply and strangely interconnected at its very core, what other fundamental assumptions about our universe are just waiting to be overturned?